Hello everyone. So this video is a continuation of a previous video about known local and global variables. So in this video we're going to actually create a code and then tweak with the statements a bit. Okay, so we are just going to see how output changes based on where you use non-local variables or global variables. Okay, so I hope you already know that global variable is global. So you define this variable outside the function, right? And global variables are accessed outside function scope. They can be accessed, and non-local variables can't be accessed outside the scope. So we are going to see that. And then local variables in nested function, if you're using local variables and you're using them in a nested function, they will pick the immediate scope, but they won't change its value. Okay, we'll see how. But if you have non-local variables, it's not gonna happen. They will pick the immediate scope and immediate scope as well as modify the value. Okay, so I'm going to come up with a few functions here. Let me create a new file. Okay, so let's say I'm going to name this variable global variable. Okay, so this is my global variable, right? Now I'm going to create three nested functions. So first one is, let's say, because I'm going to three functions, so I'm going to take, this is the outermost, so function 3, and I'm going to use, if you remember, in previous video I was using a variable, right? So I'm going to use global variable equals to 100. Now if you see, this is name of the variable is global variable, but in fact it is not global, it is local to function 3, right? And inside function 3 I'm going to create another function, let's say def function 1. Okay, and then I'm going to use another variable, global variable, and its value is going to be 45. All right, so this is local to function 1. Then we have def function 2. All right, and here I'm again going to use global variable, and let's say its value is 90, and this is local to function 2. Now here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna declare it non-local. So we have non-local global variable. Okay, now I'm going to print the value here. Global variable, right? And to actually I'm sorry for that. Somebody's at the door. Yeah, somebody's at the door. So function 2. So I need to call function 2, right? Then only I'll be able to see the result. So function 2, and then here I'm gonna call function 1, and here I'm gonna call function 3, right? Let me save it. So I'm gonna name it, let's say 1 2 3. I'm gonna save it on desktop, then I'm gonna run it. Right, so we have 90 is the output. okay, because there are a lot of functions here, but ultimately we are printing this global variable 90. This is actually this one is actually the simplest example, right? Now let me change this a little. So say I do not have this value, global variable 90, okay? So what if I run this now? $45, right? If you remember, I told you that known local variable will pick the value of its immediate scope, and it will also change it. So here, when you run the code, function 3 gets called, right? And inside function 3, function 1 gets called. Inside function 1, function 2 gets called, right? And when you call function 2, we have known local global variable, but this global variable does not have any value, and then we're trying to print the value, right? Now since it is known local, it's gonna pick this value 45 because this is the immediate scope. Function 2 is in the scope of function 1. Obviously it is also in the scope of function 3, but the immediate scope is function 1, okay? So it's gonna pick this value 45, right? Then what else can we change here? Now let's say I'm also gonna, so these are comments, right? So this value will when you put these 3 quotes here and 3 quotes here, this becomes a comment line, and these statements will be ignored, right, when you run the code. So now when you print this value, what will be the immediate scope? Obviously function 2, but it doesn't have any function 1, but it first scope will be function 2, but it doesn't have any value for global variable. Then function 1, no value for global variable. So function 3, so it should be 100. Let me save it and run it, right? So it will pick the immediate value of immediate scope. Okay, previous one, not the next one. Obviously scope will not be the next one. It's like the previous function, right? So because if you like function 1 is not in the scope of function 2. Function 2 is the next function, right? Next to function 1, but function 1 is not in the scope of function 2. It will always be the previous one. So immediate scope. When I say immediate scope, it's like the previous function in which that function resides. Okay, what else? So now we are going to ignore this value also. Let me save it and run it. So it says no binding for known local global variable, right? So there is not any binding. Binding meaning we are not able to pick the next scope, right? So function 3, function 1, function 2, print global, right? So I'm gonna put it like this. Okay, now if I run it, it's gonna be 10, right? Because if it is like I told you, I hope you are able to understand now, it is known local, but it is not global, okay? So when you're trying to print this value, it says known local, okay? And known local meaning it cannot be global, right? So if value is not found in this function, it's gonna check the immediate scope. If value is not found for that variable in that scope, it's gonna check the next immediate scope. Value is not found there, and we are running out of scopes. So then it's gonna give you an error because we can't go for global variable. Okay, so you will see that error. I hope it's clear. If it's not, please let me know. Then what else can we do here? Let me remove these quotes or comments. Okay, and what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna show you what this is going to be another illustration. Okay, so we are outside the functions, right? So global variable outside, we are outside the functions. Okay, so let's see if we can have access to one of these values, because these values are inside the functions. So let's see that whether it's gonna be local or global. Yeah, see, why do we have 90 here? Okay, so when you run this program, again, like when you run it, functions will be called, right? So function 3 gets called, function 1 gets called, function 2 gets called, right? So first control, comes to this function 3 gets called. When 3 gets called, control comes here, and then here function 1 gets called. When 1 gets called, control gets here, and then function 2 gets called. When function 2 gets called, we have non-local global variable and the value is 90, and then we are printing that value. Okay, so 90 gets printed here, and then control comes to this line, print outside scope global variable. Right now, since this is outside the function 3, this is outside all the functions, this is going to be your global value, right? And do we have a global variable? Yes, we do, and its value is 10. Okay, so outside scope value gets printed 10, right? And what else? So global variable 10, 300, function 1, 45, function 2. Let me change something here. So let's just say we have a equals to 7 here, and then we are going to print the value of a here. Okay, and okay, why do I have to do that? I don't need this, so I also don't need this, right? So I'm gonna use a equals to 7, print a, right? And then we have function 2, function 1 and 3 and outside scope. If I save it, now I need to run it. What would be the output? Obviously it will be 7 and 10, right? So it's still gonna print this. It's not like it has to be non-local or something. It's like just the normal routine, right? So 7 gets printed, and then outside scope is 10. Now let me change this a little. So what am I going to do here? After function 2, I'm going to print value of a. Okay, so this a is local to function 2, and I'm trying to print its value outside function 2. Okay, then we are calling function 1, function 3 and this. Now let's see what happens if we do that. Actually, let me close it and then run it again. Right? So this A gets printed 7, right? But then when we have to print this, error gets generated, right? So other statements will not be executed because we already have an error, right? It says A is not defined, right? So this means that you cannot have a local variable, you cannot have access to it outside the scope of the function. And what if, so I'm gonna declare this one nonlocal equals to nonlocal A, and then A is 7, right? We are going to print A, then function to print A. So what if now this is nonlocal A? Can you have access to nonlocal A outside the function? Let's see. And we are also trying to print its value here. Okay, so when I run it, it says no binding for nonlocal A found. Okay, so there is no binding for A found. There has to be, you have to declare it. It has to be, there has to be some sort of binding, as I explained in the previous video, right? It's not gonna, you cannot access it outside, and even this value will not be printed. Okay, and what else? So nonlocal A, right? Yeah, so let's correct this one first. So we have a global variable 45. We need to bind it to some value. So let's say I have A equals to 8 here, and nonlocal A equals to 7, print A. Yeah. Now let's see if you can run it. You can obviously run it. Let's see if you can get the output, right? So what is happening here? When you run it, 7, because now this is nonlocal, but it is already bound to 8. So there is some kind of value, because that's why I told you that nonlocal variables are mostly used with nested functions, right? So we have 7 here, print A, 7. And now I also told you that for nonlocal variables, what happens is it's not only gonna, for nonlocal variables, you know, it's not only gonna fetch the value from immediate scope, but if you are trying to make any changes, it is also going to reflect those changes. So this print A, this statement print A, here you're trying to print the value of A outside function 2, right? But this is actually inside the scope of function 1. So function 1 has variable A equals to 8, right? So obviously function 1 can print this value in the local scope, right? But since in function 2 this is nonlocal, this has already been declared nonlocal, so when you change this value, immediate scope will also reflect the change. Okay, and so this value is also going to be 7, and then outside scope, outside value is global variable 10, right? Okay, what else can I tell you here? So function 2, print A, 1 and 3. Okay, let me show you this thing also. So like here this value is going to be, this is 8. So you are going to print 8 here first, right? And then when the control goes inside function 2, its value will be changed because you have non-local a and then equals to 7, and for non-local variables it will change the scope. It will change the value of variable in immediate scope. So if I run this, right, 8, 7, 7, and then this. So initial value was 8, and then after control goes into this function 2 scope, this value will also be changed, right? I'm just trying to alter the code to make sure that you're able to understand how global, non-local and local variables actually work. If you have any doubt, please let me know. What else should I tell you? Okay, what if I have another value here? So let's say we have a equals to 77 in function 3, right? And then we also have a equals to 8 in function 1. We are trying to print the value, and function 2 non-local a equals to 7. So I'm going to show you how this value actually differs. So let's say we are trying to print a from function 2 first. Okay, and here I'm trying to print a from function 1, right? Then the function 1 gets executed. We have print a from function 3. Yeah. Come on. Okay. So I want you to pay attention here. First of all, when you run the function, obviously function 3 will be run. Function 3 will be called, right? And inside function 3, we have function 1 that gets called. And when you call function 1, inside function 1, right, so function 1 gets called, and inside function 1 we have a equals to 8, right? So then next statement is print a. So 8 will be printed on the screen. Okay, and function 1 ends here. So then you are printing another statement, a from function 3. No, not here. When you call this function 1, where is it ending? Right, so this is where it ends. So it ends here. Function 2 gets called, right? So function 2 gets called, and inside function 2 we have this a from function 2. So this value gets printed, a from function 2. This is a little confusing, I know. So we have 7. Non-local a is 7, right? Okay, so next statement after function 2, when function 2 gets printed, obviously, because it goes inside, right? So next statement would be a from function 1, right? So as you can see, when it prints a from function 1, value is already changed. You know, like I told you in the few minutes back. So non-local variable changes will be reflected in the variable of immediate scope, right? So a is not 8 anymore. A has become 7. Immediate scope, right? And when you print the value from function 3, it is still 77, right? So I'm just trying to show you here that it's only a value of immediate scope will be altered, will be modified, okay, not the immediate to immediate scope, right? So function 2 is in function 1, so function 1 is the immediate scope, so that's where the modification will take place, and not in function 3. Okay, and so we have 8, 7, 7, 77, 10. Yeah. Then I'm gonna, let me change this value here. Okay, I'm not gonna print this anymore. So we have function 2, non-local A7, A from function 2, that's where it gets printed, and then function 2, and I don't need to print this value. Function 1, A from function 3, and then function 3, right? Right? So 7, 7, and 10. Okay. Now, in this case, as you can see, A from function 3 is 7. It's not 77. So why is that? Because non-local A, right? So A equals to 7. Fine. Now, if in the immediate scope we have a variable with the same name, its value is also going to be altered because it is a non-local variable. Now A equals to 7, right? So we are going to see if in the immediate scope, if we have a variable named A. Immediate scope is function 1, and we don't have any A here. We don't have any variable named A. This is comment, so obviously this is going to be ignored, right? And then we will move on to we'll go back to another scope, like the next immediate scope. So that is function 3. Do we have a variable? Do we have a variable with the name of non-local variable? Yes, we do. So this value will be changed, right? A few minutes back, what we did was, when we changed, when we were running this code, A was 7. So this 8 was also replaced by 7 because this is in the immediate scope, right? Now this is in comment, so this will be ignored. So there is no A as such. So it will check the next immediate scope, previous, or like this one. So this value will be changed. Okay. Yeah. And I hope this was helpful. This is a little confusing, but I tried my best to help you understand how global variable, local variable, and non-local variables are used in a program, how they are used in nested functions, and what is the impact of changing their values, and if you can actually you can have access to them outside certain scopes, right? If you still have any doubt, feel free to ask, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video with another topic. Till then, have a great day.